Hi, welcome or welcome back. I'm Jess. Let's talk about the books I read in May 2023. Stay tuned for the best book at the end of the video. Thanks. May ended up being another romance-heavy month, so let's start with the romances first. And our very first book is actually going to be the only DNF of the month, and that is One Night with the Duke by Jodi Ellen Malpas. I may be mispronouncing her name, but it doesn't matter since I'll never read her again. Ms. Jodi Ellen, our #1 New York Times bestselling author, really needs to find an editor. First chapter and the one page I read of the second chapter was bad. It was just bad. The premise was really fun though. So in this historical romance, our female lead is really interested in political and current event journalism, and she writes for her father's newspaper. Of course, she is a woman. Her articles are always attributed to her brother, and now they have moved to London from the country, and even that freedom she had to write for her brother's name has been restricted. Well, she sees a duke across the street who is moving into a house, and she wants to investigate him for the murders of his family. It sounds like a fun read. However, the first chapter is just littered with to-be verbs. For instance, she was watching the Duke move in, or she watched the Duke move in. Which sounds cleaner? I can ignore a lot, but when it comes up so frequently, it's really hard to ignore it. Like I said, littered the first chapter. And then this is a first-person POV, and this is where it just lost me. I think I would have stopped reading anyway just because of all the to-be verbs. It was just poorly written, but now in the second chapter, our author, who decided this was a first-person narrative, decided to write in first person observations that would make more sense coming from a third party completely outside the head of our first-person character. So even if this had been in third-person POV and we were in her POV, it would still not make sense. I don't know. It was just bad. I don't even understand. Like this really highlights to me just how dumb the New York Times best-selling list is. It's a waste of time. The next book, A Lady in Disguise by Lynsay Sands, I think did a better job of trying to do a similar idea as the last book, the one that was terrible. So this is also historical romance. Our female lead is writing articles for a local newspaper in London. She is in the middle or tail end of interviews at a brothel when her brother's former army mate, who her brother died in the war, I guess, but his army mate has found out she's at the brothel. He assumes that she is now working as a prostitute and he wants to save her. She's not working as a prostitute, but it doesn't stop him from abducting her and holding her hostage on his country estate. And then in the middle of his POV, he starts seducing her, and she is like, oh, this is fun and exciting and overwhelming because she has no experience. And he's just thinking that she's the one somehow seducing him with her wiles of pretending to be so innocent. And it's like, dude, what is wrong with you? Just own up to it. You want some intimate time with this woman. You find her attractive. Okay, fine. Don't say that you are under her spell. Take some responsibility here. Anyway, it is a fun read. Lynsay Sands, I think, does a good job with blending in some comedy with her romance. I didn't particularly like the male lead here, but the female lead was pretty good. So this one's not a bad read. I read a second Lynsay Sands book this month, and that was The Switch. So the premise of this historical novel, romance novel, is that a pair of twins have been engaged by their uncle to undesirable prospects. So one of the young ladies dresses up as a boy so that they can run away in the middle of the night from an inn. And of course, they are caught by a duke or some other, rich, titled gentleman, as you do. And he takes pity on them, decides to take them into his home in London. And their new plan is that they will switch out being the girl, the young lady of the house, and find suitors at balls. Which, right off the bat, sounds absurd, because if one of them ends up falling in love with someone, but the other one is still looking for a mate, isn't that going to cause some issues? Like, how is anyone going to believe that they're committing to anyone? And indeed, that comes up. So this was fun. It was entertaining. The writing could have used a little more work. I did not need the confusion of, and not me being confused, the writing itself telling me I should be confused because is this the boy? Is this the girl? Who knows? And it's like, I know their names. I'm following along. I know which is which. I don't need you to tell me, oh, his room, no, her room, his room, someone's room. Why are we doing this? Anyway, like I said, entertaining read. This next romance might be the only romance that I enjoyed start to finish and had zero criticisms of, honestly. And that is Secretly Yours by Tessa Bailey. This was fun. This was a lot of fun. It's a contemporary romance. Our main female is a gardener, landscaper. She's very chaotic, doesn't like to plan, goes more based on her intuition. Well, her grandmother died 6 months ago. Her grandmother was kind of a stabilizing force in her life, and she's becoming a little more chaotic as she's grieving, and she's feeling a lot better. Like, it's been 6 months. Her grandmother was old. I feel like I'm going down a weird road. Okay, so our male lead is a professor who, his family owns a vineyard, and he is visiting the vineyard for the summer while he writes a book. He also suffers from panic attacks or anxiety under like very stressful situations, and he has a colleague who recently had his own sort of mental breakdown. So part of his taking a break for the summer is to, try to make sure he's in a better place himself. Well, our main couple, they met back in high school initially. She's had a crush on him pretty much ever since then. He kind of doesn't know she exists, but that's okay. They develop a really cute relationship, and it was a very entertaining cast of characters. I did really like this one. I will read other Tessa Bailey books. It does seem like she writes a lot, so I've got time. I read a second Tessa Bailey book this month, and that was Staking His Claim. This opened very quickly. They did not waste time. There was lust at first sight, and intimate moments followed soon after. Our female lead had just graduated from a master's program. Our male lead is the friend and co-worker of her brother, who is a police officer in New York City. He came down to, I guess, carpool with her up to New York to stay with her brother for the summer until she figures out her next job situation. She lies to him about who she is because she thinks that he won't be willing to have intimate time with her if he knows that she is her brother's sister. And based on his perspective, I would say that's accurate. But it ends up being fine. I would say my only real criticism of this one is, okay, lust at first sight, cool, you do you. They fell in love inside of a week. I don't even think it was as long as a week. Maybe you could argue that they had some forced emotional intimacy. I don't know, I feel like that's a stretch. Overall though, good writing, fun, and quick. The second to last romance was Play by Kylie Scott. In this contemporary romance, we have a young woman who falls in love with the drummer of a band, a very popular band, and it's one that she has liked since she was a teenager. Very specifically, she has liked the drummer since she was a teenager, even though she thinks all of the bandmates are very cute. But they kind of start off with a fake dating trope, which I enjoy fake dating, so does not bother me at all. I would say the only thing that did frustrate me about this is I didn't realize at the beginning, and maybe it was said, maybe it wasn't, she's only 22 years old, which, okay, adult, fine, comma, but she seems very young at times. For instance, there's a scene where he is really upset. One of his coping strategies is to just go play on his drums for a bit until he calms down. And she doesn't want him to leave because she wants to fix the problem. This problem, meanwhile, has nothing to do with her. Not at all. She just wants to help him feel better and make it right for him, as if he's not capable of managing his own stress. And also, you can't fix things for people. So like I said, at times she seemed very immature, but overall it was entertaining. I had a good time. I thought it ended well, so I think it's worth checking out if you're into fake dating. My last romance is Scandalized by Ivy Owens. This was well written. It was entertaining. I liked it. This follows a woman who is a reporter. She's been in London for a while researching a scandal involving a nightclub in London. She's on her way back to LA when one of her connecting flights gets canceled. She recognizes her childhood best friend's older brother, who happened to be on the same flight that was canceled. She recognizes him. They end up going to a hotel together, have a one-night stand, and then she finds out the next day, basically, that he is a very popular television actor. But she doesn't watch TV. She has no idea about anything pop culture, even though her roommate loves this guy. So you would think, you would think she would have some clue, but she doesn't. That's fine. Probably the biggest issue I had with this one, the biggest criticism, is the third act conflict was all due to her own making, and she not once took responsibility for it. And it drove me crazy. Like, she wanted him to apologize for it, even though she's the one who messed up. She made choices deliberately, that screwed over other people and went against what she said she was going to do. And then when that went poorly for her, she was upset with them for being upset with her. And I was like, honey, come on. Like, take some responsibility, own up to it, move on. It's fine. I will also say the epilogue was weird. It read almost like a bullet point list of what happens after the story is done. And it wasn't bad per se, like where their lives went after the story ended. But I didn't think the epilogue was necessary, and the style of it was just strange to me. So, but overall, like, it was a good book. I enjoyed it. I would read another book by Ivy Owens. The characters were really engaging and charming. Another book I read this month was Shopaholic Sister by Sophie Kinsella. This is the 4th book in her Shopaholic series. In this one, the shopaholic, Becky, finds out that she has a sister that she never knew about. Her sister is from a completely different background and has very different interests. At first, it does not seem like they are going to get along with each other at all. They do, by the end, find some common ground, but they are extremely different people. I really enjoyed this one. A lot of laughs, even some tears. Becky is coming off of like traveling around the world, and she's having a really hard time finding her footing. Her best friend, who she has always thought of as a sister, has a new friend, and she feels like they're competing. One of my favorite books, just in general. Sophie Kinsella is one of my favorite authors, and Shopaholic Sister is one of my favorite books of the series. So definitely recommend this one. Next book is nonfiction, A Captain's Duty by Richard Phillips. So I told people I was reading this as I was reading it, and every single person I told about this book knew because it was a movie with Tom Hanks. I had no idea, so I guess I'll try to find the movie. So this is, for anyone who hasn't already seen the movie, this follows Captain Phillips. His ship was taken by pirates near the coast of Somalia. It was a harrowing experience as he tried to keep calm, outwit the pirates, keep his men safe, his crew safe. It was, normally when I think of pirates, I think of, Pirates of the Caribbean, or, the East India Trading Company. I don't think of modern day pirates, but it's a huge problem, and it's terrifying. This was a really good book. I very much enjoyed how it was written. For all that it was nonfiction, it was incredibly fast-paced and engaging. I would say it's as thrilling as any other suspense book. So I do recommend it, and bonus, it's a true story. The second nonfiction book I read was Taking Care of Adult ADHD by Dr. Russell A Barkley. I really enjoy Dr. Barkley's videos on YouTube. He's so informative, and he seems really kind and compassionate. I think I maybe get more out of the videos on YouTube though from him over this book. I think part of the problem for me was that my library only had this book available in an audiobook format, and there are whole sections that talk about medications, and just having the medication read out over the audiobook, and there's no way to know when that section will end. It took me out of the experience of the book and was not helpful, but I think the main takeaways from it is that you should practice being aware of yourself, you know, practice awareness, try to have a sense of humor, right? Having ADHD, not fitting in, you know, struggling to interact with the world, that can be very stressful, but, you know, try not to let it be too stressful. Try to have a sense of humor, and, you know, be open to looking for help, either from just people around you, asking them, hey, this isn't working for me, so can we do something differently? Or seeking help from a professional, like a clinician of some kind. And then, like I said, there were entire sections on medication information, so maybe get medicated if that's what you need or want to try. And if that works for you. I think the statistic I read is that for like 20% of people with ADHD, medication isn't effective. For most people it is. But yeah, so this was a really good book. I think I would have preferred to have read it versus listened to it. Even though I do generally prefer my nonfiction to be audio, this was an exception to that. But it was a good read. Also, if you have a chance, go check out his videos on YouTube. Just Dr. Russell Barkley ADHD. Fantastic resource. Last book of the month and best book of the month, The Tiger's Daughter by K Arsenault Rivera. Oh, okay, so this was fantasy fiction and is told in kind of two parts. So first part is, you know, our present day, and it's in the perspective of the Empress. And she is reading a letter. So as she's reading a letter from her childhood friend, the letter is first person recounting the past. And I think most of the story is in the letter and in the past. And they've known each other since they were about 3 years old. There are gods in this world, and the Empress believes that she and her friend are gods reborn, and I think there's probably some evidence for that. But this was a really engaging read. It took me a while to get through it, but I really, really liked it. It was a very interesting world, and it was nice to see how their relationships unfolded. It was really heartbreaking how certain events happened. Another thing I really appreciated about it was all of the strong characters in this book were female. The Empress's mother was the best swordsman of the realm. The friend's mother was the leader of her people. And then, of course, our two main girls, they're both extremely talented and skilled, even from very young ages. The good men that are represented here are usually kinder, more gentle. Like the Empress's father was known as the Poet Prince. He was not a violent person. But yeah, not many men were positive experiences. But yeah, just all strong, powerful women. I really liked this one. Okay, those were the 10 books I read and the one I didn't read for May 2023. I will see you soon for another video. Thanks.